It's funny, we've been working on it for 2 years now, and the stuff that we learned feels very obvious now. We and everybody else still thought that Lara was cool. We were just frustrated with the game. We needed Lara to control the way you wanted her to, you know, fluidly, easily. When you're on the ledges that Lara invariably encounters, or vertical poles, horizontal poles, etc., you can tap the Y button on Xbox, triangle on PS2, and in rhythm with her motion and accelerate across that primitive. So typically in a game where you're just holding a direction and waiting for the character to get to the end, now you're actually interacting with Lara and speeding yourself through the environment. The other thing we've included is something we call multiple outcomes. So when you're jumping from an H-pole, and when you're doing a lateral jump, which is a new mechanic we have, where if you get to the end of a ledge, she'll kind of sway, and if you time that jump with that sway, you'll get a better connection. If you time your departure from that H-pole, you'll get a better connection. If you time your run off the ledge before you jump, you'll get a better connection. If not, she'll end up in a one-handed grab where you have to save Lara by pressing, again, the Y button or the triangle button. It's kind of our alternate movement button. And the most recent outing before ours, Angel of Darkness, which, you know, some people really loved, and I respect that. One of the things they did that a lot of people did not appreciate was put you in a city for the first roughly 2 hours of the game, an abandoned city. And that was one thing that we were not going to do. We wanted to put you right back in the tombs, and that's what we've done with Tomb Raider Legend. In going back to the tombs, we wanted to make the tombs as cutting edge as we can make them, and from a gameplay perspective, and that means the introduction of physics. The advantage of that is it is real world, so it's intuitive. You can look at it and you can go, you know, maybe if I could topple that, maybe that would happen. Let me try that. Oh yeah, that works. You know, I wonder how I could topple it. Could I shoot it? Could I swing into it? Could I throw a grenade at it? Oh yeah, I could do that. That worked. Cool. So it's really small, simple stuff that just makes things a little bit more intuitive, and when they actually happen, a little more fun. We wanted to bring Lara kind of up to date in a few different ways, you know, both technically and how she was, how many polys, texture detail, and the like, but also kind of as a character in terms of how lifelike she is. That's why, you know, as you play the game, when you set up to do a jump, she'll look in the direction she's about to jump, responding to your immediate input, not waiting for you to press a button. That's one of the reasons why we have her gear is all visible on her. She comes in with her pistols. You don't put 5 million weapons into her backpack. When you get into a firefight, if an enemy drops a weapon, which they will, you can pick that one up and put it on your backpack, where you'll see it. Just kind of more realism and more life, as well as more just straight up detail in the character. Most importantly, no matter which SKU you purchase, whichever one's for you, you're going to get the same main game. We just optimize it and tweak it for each of those platforms. So, for example, on the PSP, we have 3 mini games that you can play with friends in ad hoc mode. One of which is essentially a race using Lara's core mechanics, where you're trying to beat your friend with the fastest time through a section. You can also play that by yourself, and we randomly generate that to a certain extent. So every time you play, you get a slightly new experience. On Xbox, we're pegged at 60 frames a second, so you get a little bit of a smoother feel. The PS2 looks great. That is a nice advantage of the Xbox. It's also live aware, so of course you'll know if your friends are on. And feature-wise, we have achievements. So if you collect rewards, if you beat the game on normal or hard, if you get good times in time trial mode, you earn more achievements. And of course, if you're playing on Xbox 360, your friends will know that you are and where you are in the game. So if they want to give you hints, you want to ask them questions, we support that. The PC SKU of TR Legend will play on just about any PC as long as your graphics card supports texture and lighting, and it'll range roughly between what you see on the Xbox and what you see on the Xbox 360. It'll take full advantage of your higher end graphics cards. as well, so you'll get as good of experience as your PC can support. We still do have those large, open, explorable spaces, and we've given you some tools to help you overcome those. So they're still as big a challenge as you want them to be, but you can take advantage of Zip and Alistair, two friends of Laura's who are back at her mansion. And you can also take advantage of a new device she has, her binoculars, which have a RAD mode, which is remote analysis device.
Might be a good place to use the RAD mode of your binoculars.
You could be right.
Which allows her to kind of figure out what's interactive in the scene by the binoculars' ability to pick up, small vibration. So it's just another way to help you through a space. We want you to be able to solve without going to a hint guide or go online. Combat in Tomb Raider Legend is kind of interesting for a couple reasons. I mean, the first of which is that combat has never been the most important thing about Tomb Raider. It's always been something that Lara could do, and Lara could do in cool ways. I mean, the main strategy in the old Tomb Raiders was to jump and shoot, which you'd never been able to do before. So it's got that mix where it's not the most important thing about the game, and when you do it, it had been a lot of fun, at least in the earlier versions. So that's more or less what we've tried to do in Tomb Raider Legend. We believed in that approach, and we think it makes sense for her character and for Tomb raiding in general. You can do things like use your grappling hook, which is primarily an exploration tool, to yank enemies towards you, to set up for combos. You can yank enemies off high ledges, down to the ground below where you can shoot them. You can use that grappling hook to pull an enemy into a slide tackle, into an acrobatic jump-off maneuver, which allows you to do high damage shots. We took our story very seriously on this game. We wanted you to have a reason to want to get to the next level beyond just a new challenge. We wanted you to want to learn more. So yeah, it's a fun story. I mean, the one thing I like to tell people is that in her bio, it always talks about how something happened to her in the Himalayas that made her who she was, but none of the previous games or media has gone into that. In this game, we go right to the Himalayas, and you get to see what that was and understand that fully. I mean, really, this is about an individual sitting down and experiencing the world through Lara Croft. So that's what we've set out to deliver.